Hello, welcome to Chapter 8, Arrays of Programming Logic at Tri-C. This is Kevin Landis speaking, and I'm using screencast-o-matic.com to record this, which has a limitation of 15 minutes. So we will see, we have 120 slides this week. We'll see how far we can get, and there will most likely be more than one recording. Here's the objectives. You can read those yourself. We're going to learn about arrays. We're going to learn about using them, declaring them, and for each to get through them, some other things. There's the list of sections. You guys can read that on your own. Data structures. So this is an array is like a variable, but it's a collection of variables. So it's more than one variable put together when it makes sense. A one data structure would be like a student record where it has your name and your birth date and your address and your student ID and things like that. That would be one example of a data structure, but that is not an array because names would be strings, student IDs are probably numbers, birth dates are dates with month, day, and year, things like that. Arrays are data structures that consist of related data items of the same type. So an array has to always be all integers or all floating point numbers or all strings or all booleans. Every array contains the same type of data. Every array contains exactly one type of data. Arrays are fixed length. Okay, once they're created, with a few very complicated exceptions, we have to know how long they're going to be, and we have to keep them that length. Okay, so I'm going to say I have a list of 10 test scores, and that means I have 10. I can't have 12 or 11, or I certainly can't have more. I could have less if I just don't fill some of the data in. But arrays, the important thing we're going to know is they have the same data type and they have fixed length. Okay, once the length is set, it stays. This is weird not having the mouse that shows up on the screen. Oh, there it is. I lost it for a second. An array is a group of variables called elements. Okay, so the individual parts of the array, each individual variable within the array is an array element. Okay, once again, they have the same type. Arrays are reference types. That just means we think we actually have the data. We actually have a pointer to the data. That's not really going to affect how you program, so we'll talk about that later on. Elements of an array can be values or reference. Again, we're not getting that deep right now. To refer to a particular element in the array, we specify the name of the reference and the position in the array. Okay, so we have to say if I have a list of test scores and I want to access one of them, I need to know which test score am I accessing. The third one, the fourth one, the first one, things like that. And we're going to look at figure 8.1, which has an array named C that stores integers, and there are 12 of them. So here's my list. And the first weird thing that we're going to notice is the index, okay, that's the number of the array, is going to start at 0 and go to 11. Okay, we talked about it a couple times before in this class, I believe. Computer programmers start counting at 0. Okay, it's just kind of what we do. It's a weird thing. It makes sense, especially in arrays, once we start talking about the offset and how we're actually accessing the data. But this is going to be a stumbling point for some of us. Hopefully not. This is the top one, we'll call it the 0th element. The 0th, 0th element of the array. Okay, first, second, third. So if there are 12 elements in the array, their numbers go from 1 to 11. This is the name. The array is called array C. And this is the data that's actually stored in the array. You can see they are indeed all integers. They have to be the same type. Okay, the array access expression. Okay, that means that the C bracket 0 or C bracket 1. Okay, array access expression. That's going to be the name of the array, square brackets, and the index. Okay, and it says here, first element in every array has an index 0 and is sometimes called the 0th element. We can't have negative indexes inside of our array. We can't have the negative 1th thing. It starts at 0 and goes positive. Arrays have a property called length, capital L length, that tells how many there are, how many elements are in the array. Arrays are objects. They're created with the keyword new. We'll see that in the code or an example at the bottom of this page. To create an array object, we specify how large the array is going to be, the number of array elements as part of the expression. So here's an example down at the bottom. Int square bracket, that means it's going to be an integer array, and we're going to name it C, is or equals a new integer array, and now we put 12 in on the right side. So this is one way. There are a few different ways, but this is one way to declare an array. Okay, we have to say the type. We give it the square brackets that tells us it's going to be an array. Then we say the name of the array, this just like any other variable name, equals new int. These int and this int will always match. Square bracket, and here's where we put how many. So if we have 12, again, they're going to be numbered 0 through 11. Okay, we can also do it in 2 rows, 2 lines in the program. I'm not sure why you would, but you could. Int array C, I haven't used it yet. C equals a new int array size 12. Okay, these are equivalent, and I like the other one better, so I'm not going to dwell on this very long. But this is just doing it in 2 lines instead of 1. The number of elements can also be an expression. So in other words, instead of saying 12, we could do some math inside those square brackets that will give us 12 or whatever number we want. Arrays get default values. For numerics, they get zeros. For booleans, then they get false. And for references, which we haven't talked about yet, they would get the value null. Here's a common error. Don't put the number in the square brackets on the left of the equals. Okay. On the left of the equals, we'll just say int square bracket C without the number. So here we are declaring arrays. Declaring is like when we initialize it, when we ask the computer to save us some space. Save us some space in memory so that we can store these array values, the variable values. All right, we could create several arrays in one declaration. It gets complicated. Don't do it. For readability, write each declaration on their own line. An application can declare arrays of value type elements. Again, we haven't really talked about values and references, and we're not going to start right now. We'll get to it later on. For example, every element of an int array is an int value. Every element of a string is a reference to a string. We don't need to know that yet. arrays can be resized. Okay, it's dangerous. Not dangerous, but it's just try not to. Try to avoid resizing your arrays unless you really need to, because it actually creates a new array. It moves it. It's sloppy. It's okay, but it's sloppy. If you resize it to a smaller array, you'll lose some data. Here's an example in the code. All right, and this is the two-line method of declaring an array. Int square bracket array, there we declared it. Array, which is the same name as we declared above, equals new int square bracket 5. So now we're saying, make me an array. I don't know how big it is. Oh yeah, it'll be 5 elements big, 5 integers. Okay. And we haven't given it any data yet, but we're going to go from 0 to array.length. We have a for loop that starts at counter equals 0 and continues as long as counter is less than array.length. We said a couple slides ago that array.length would always give us the number of elements in the array. So this is 5. So it's less than 5, so I'll go up to 4. And then I do a write line and I say array square bracket counter. So the first time through this will be array bracket 0, then array bracket 1, and so on and so forth. It will do array bracket 4, which is okay, but it will not do array bracket 5, which is actually good. We don't want it to do array bracket 5. That would break everything. And this is just the output of the program, shows that these are all zeros because we never put any data in the array. We just initialized it. 8.4, I'm going to pause here and start a new recording because it has been 12 and a half minutes.